Why choose a Sleep Number smart bed?
Can I make my site softer?
Can I make my site firmer?
Can we sleep cooler?
Sleep Number does that. Cools up to 8 times faster and lets you choose your ideal comfort on either side. Your Sleep Number setting. It's the Sleep Number biggest sale of the year. All beds on sale, up to 50% off the limited edition smart bed. Limited time. All Sleep Number smart beds offer temperature solutions for your best sleep. Check it out at a Sleep Number store or sleepnumber.com today.
AFR On Demand is brought to you by Breck Golf. Try Beaver Creek today, just 20 minutes from downtown Baton Rouge in the Zachary area. They've got a PGA Tour driving range, a short game practice area, 30 to 40-yard practice shots. It's a great place to chip and putt and practice if you don't have time for a full round. Book your tee time today, golf.breck.org, golf.breck.org.
Matt Moscona.
I'm very important.
After further review.
Say it one more time.
After further review with Matt Moscona.
And here we go.
Live from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studio.
Let's ride!
Hour 2, off we go. Welcome aboard. Glad you're with us. It's AFR, presented by Goodwood MedSexual Wellness. We're here in the South Stadium Club at Tiger Stadium tonight. It is Go Time, an event presented by NILSU Max. And we're very pleased to be joined by Taylor Jacobs, who's the Associate AD for NIL and Strategic Initiatives. Thank you for the time. Thank you for having us.
Yeah, thank you for being here.
It's our pleasure. You and I have been able to do a lot of different media over the years. Remember, like when NIL went live 4 years ago, Pixley and I swindled you onto our podcast. We were the only people doing NIL podcasts 4 years ago.
Oh, I remember. I remember the swindling.
Well, you have been someone, though, that has seen everything from dawn of this era to every change. So it makes you a very fascinating person to talk to. First of all, Associate AD for NIL and Strategic Initiatives. There's no way it fits on your business card. What does that mean?
It means, Taylor, figure out how to manage the chaos is what that means. That's a fancy way to say strategic initiatives. No, I think when we first were establishing what this department would look like and how NIL would operate within the already existing collegiate athletic space, there was a lot of change. It was moving really fast. And at the time, the current leadership that was there, we didn't want to just silo it to NIL because we knew that it was going to be so evolving, and there was a revenue component and a fundraising component and all of these different things that we were trying to implement, the education for the athletes. And so really I was challenged in the very beginning to start thinking strategically about how we would advance in this space. And that has just evolved into so much. Now we have all these different revenue goals, and how are we tying NIL into things that we otherwise never would have thought of? How are we working with partners more strategically, which is truthfully how NILSU Max was born, right? Sure. How can we bring Playfly and our corporate partners more into the fold? So that was really what I was tasked with in the beginning. As you mentioned, it's evolved a ton. Now we have revenue sharing, which is our institutional NIL component. So there's just a lot of moving parts, and that's really how the unit was born, I guess.
Do you think that from the average fan who sits in section 223 right over there, or the fan that sits in section 615 over there, or the corporate partner who spends a lot of dollars to be a corporate partner of LSU, do you think how much confusion do you think still exists between the difference in NIL and revenue share?
Oh my goodness. I'm sure there's a ton of confusion still around it. I know daily I get, we all are revenue sharing now, so NIL went away. And I'm like, no.
Have you looked at my business card?
Actually, arguably it might be even more important now.
Really?
I think, absolutely. Okay. I think, and we can talk about that, but, this new generation of athlete, I was a student athlete way back in the day. We won't date me on air, but this new generation of athlete, the NIL component of the student athlete experience is one of the main talking points now in the recruiting process, whether it's myself, whether it's the coaches, and not just, what are you going to pay me when I come here, but holistically, how are you going to support me in this space, which is what NILSU does. That's our education, our branding, our resources, teaching them about content and social media and how to capitalize on their NIL. But then now with revenue sharing, there's that new added layer of, okay, what do you establish my worth as, and what are you as the institution going to pay me if you are going to pay me? Because again, not every athlete is getting revenue share. And then on top of that, how are you additionally helping me in the third party NIL space? Because obviously the monetary value is important, but so is the brand building component for those athletes who are looking to build their brand to go pro. They want to establish partnerships now that they can then carry on into their professional career. Like, it's a whole process and relational building thing. You would be surprised at the conversations that we've had with agents and moms and dads of, you know, we want this revenue sharing and we're thankful for this, but how are you going to introduce us to all these other third parties as well? It is a big networking component.
Yeah, I was just about to ask how often do you have conversations with agents now? That's
all I do now.
Yeah.
It is actually, it's majority of the day now.
Is it a good, I'm sorry to interrupt, but maybe weave this in. Is it a good thing that the players have representation?
You know, when it's the right representation, I do stand true. I do engage with a lot of agents, but honestly, I would say 97% of them, I don't mind. I mean, you know, you have your typical, like, they're going to make me work for it and they're going to make me work for my answer for sure. But at the end of the day, we have a great relationship, and I know, you know, I can call this individual and we're going to be on the same page and we're going to be able to get to the same conclusion and we'll be fine. We have our few one-offs where it's like, okay, I really cannot stand dealing with you, or you have no business being an agent. And I highly would encourage our athlete to consider maybe their representation. But it actually, I think I'm so used to it now that it doesn't bother me.
Taylor Jacobs is with Associate AD for NIL and Strategic Initiatives. So you said that you would argue that maybe NIL now is more important since revenue share. Why?
Well, with revenue sharing, we have a cap. So we had $20.5 million. That is how, you know, with the House settlement, that is where the max that institutions could spend in the revenue sharing spend. And at LSU, for example, we have 17 sports. So how are you distributing that revenue share? What is that looking like?
Yeah.
Making sure that you're providing opportunity for all of our coaches to feel successful and competitive in the recruiting space, but for all of our athletes to have the opportunity that they feel they need as well. So there's a lot of strategy behind that, as well as to who's getting what, who really is more marketable in the third party space, and how are we leaning into that? We know we have a lot of corporate partnerships who want to work with specific athletes. So how can we really help build that third party portfolio as opposed to leaning into heavy into the revenue share? What does that look like? So again, having those third party opportunities available now, it helps with that puzzle, if that makes sense.
No, it does. It's one of the things I often think about, like, how do you, are there student athletes where, like, realize $20.5 million, especially when football is the monster that it is here, that ain't gonna go far. So you have to be able to supplement all of these programs. How much of that, those conversations are you involved in, like the distribution of that 20.5 to make the NIL piece maybe supplement?
Yeah.
Or vice versa.
So we do have an internal group here in athletics. That's like our working group, if you will, for how this new collegiate model works. So I'm involved in that. We meet, I think, every other week now, almost weekly, especially at the beginning, where it's an ever ongoing conversation, because you got to think, at the beginning of all of this, no school had the perfect plan or puzzle for how it was going to work best, right? And what one school might value as being the most important, another school might feel differently about. And so then your programs are being supported at different levels.
Yeah.
And so trying to figure that component out too has been really hard. We don't have this public record of who's spending what and what's where and what is this program getting and what is this program getting. So navigating these first, I would say, 3 years, 2 to 3 years, I think we're going to learn a lot in how it's distributed, how other programs are using it, where are we going to, see the best return on the investment, which I hate to say it like that, but I mean, truthfully, that's what it is. Like, when you look at athletics, Kelly Zinn used to talk about this a ton, but it's a business model, and figuring out where that investment best plays out, that's part of it now. So again, I'm really thankful with the third-party component and the businesses that'll be here tonight with NILSU Max and everything that we've been doing with NILSU. We have embraced the third-party NIL thing since day one.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm actually having a little bit of like nostalgia being up here because it was February of 2022. We held the first Go Time event. That was the first like call to action of businesses saying, hey, y'all, like we need you to get involved in this space. And they did that. They responded. We have an incredible brand at LSU. We have incredible athletes here. We've seen active third-party deals successfully executed. We have athletes on national commercials. You're seeing them all over the place in true NIL deals. And we've really leaned into that. So now we're just going to continue to lean into that, even harder and continue to implement that at a top level.
Do people stop you in the grocery store and be like, aren't you the one from the Money Game?
Yeah, every now and then. It's funny. I think someone stopped me one time and told me I was the one single-handedly ruining college athletics. And I was like, that's what they said. And I was like, wait, what? And he was like, aren't you the one from that Money Game show? And I was like, oh, okay. I mean,
yeah, it was,
if that's
actually,
how you feel, respect, I get it. It's a different age. Listen, I say it all the time. I was an athlete. I did not get compensated. I couldn't even have cream cheese for my bagels when I was an athlete. So we've come a long way, but yes, it is quite the story.
To reiterate for those who might be interested in coming tonight, business owners, entrepreneurs, local, regional, national, this isn't an open to the public night, but it's if you're a business owner and you want to attend to learn more about NIL through LSU, it's a great opportunity to do it here tonight.
Yes, absolutely. It's going to be fun. I think Mary Claire, who was on earlier,
right,
she now runs NILSU Max, and she came to me a couple days ago and said, we're going to do an open Q&A. And I was like, whoa, bold move. Okay, here we go. But like I said, February of 22, I think I put my phone number on the screen and I gave my cell phone number out to Baton Rouge. So it's like this event is historically one where we get a little wild. And
did people take advantage of it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Good.
I think it was the next day after that, I came back to work and I had like over 100 emails in my inbox of like, okay, I'm ready to get involved. Okay, I'm ready to do a deal. And that was really when NILSU got rolling.
Yeah, it's a fascinating time as everyone continues to learn throughout this evolution. Taylor Jacobs, Associate AD for NIL and Strategic Initiatives. Got it all. There it is. We appreciate the time. Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you for having me.
Of course. It's after further review. We're going to knock out a quick break. We'll talk some Saints when we come back. Sean Fazende from Fox 8 New Orleans will be here at the bottom of the hour as well. Stick around with us here on AFR.
AFR.
Buying or selling commercial or residential. If you need to sell your home, you need the best. You need Darren James. Go to agent225.com, agent225.com, the most user-friendly website in real estate. Listen, I know I hammer this point a lot, but I do because it matters. The Wall Street Journal puts out their real trends list every year. It's the top 1% of realtors in America. For a decade straight, Darren James has been on that list. This year was number 17 in the country on the transaction side. We're talking about the number of times he's gotten to a closing table. So, like, if you were going to have knee surgery, you wouldn't want someone performing their first knee surgery ever on you. You want the best. Well, if you want to sell your home, why not hire someone other than the realtor who literally sells more homes than anyone? That's Darren James. Agent225.com. Agent225.com for Darren James.
Think real estate. Think Darren James.
After further review, presented by Goodwood Men's Sexual Wellness. Visit yourgoodwood.com.
All right, we're back from South Stadium Club here at LSU. Appreciate Taylor Jacobs for joining us. Mary Claire Logue last hour. We're also going to talk to Zach Greenwell from LSU next hour. It's a critical time in college athletics right now, and I know we talk about it so much and have so much over the years. And some people, Taylor just mentioned it a minute ago, like some people say NIL is ruining college athletics. It just doesn't matter what you think. I mean, I hate to say it that way. I'm not trying to be crass, but it doesn't matter what you think. It doesn't matter what I think, because it it's here. It's not going anywhere. So if you want to win, you got to learn how to be competitive. And the thing that LSU has done literally from day one of NIL went on that July 1st of 2001. They took Livy Dunn up to Times Square, and they did the photo shoot and announced, NILSU open for business, as they've tried to address and attack it head on and find ways to be competitive. And we've talked about it a lot. I think there were some missteps early. I think the collective wasn't nearly as aggressive in the beginning in fundraising. They certainly caught up. I think, you heard Taylor mention it as well, even though NIL went live July 1st of 2001. That first, Go Time event they had here, she mentioned, was February of 22. So you're talking, 6-7 months after NIL went live is when they had their first really call to action event. So a lot of this is learning and it's an evolution, but this NILSU Max, the third-party NIL, is pretty fascinating. I'll tell you the other thing. We're going to get to Sean Fazende here in about 11 minutes, and I want to talk some Saints here in a sec. But one of the other things that Mary Claire said in hour one, and I'll tell you this as someone who is in media, someone who also is a business owner. Many of you know I'm a partner in Parish Construction Roofing. I'm an equity partner in that company. One of the things that Mary Claire mentioned that is so incredibly important, if you partner, and I didn't know this till she told us, but if you're a business owner and you do an NIL deal through NILSU Max, they will let you use their facilities here. I just walked through it on the second floor. They have world class. It's where they bring the recruits for their photo shoots, the photo shoots that you see on social media all the time, the podcast studios. It's pretty incredible, that they will let you use those resources for your NIL brand deal with their student athletes. So. And that's no extra charge. A lot of times that's a massive charge, a massive expense for businesses having to hire videographers, editors, things like that. They do it for you for free here through NILSU Max. So just something to consider. If you're a business owner, again, like this at local, regional, national, you're interested in learning more about doing brand deals or NIL deals with LSU student athletes, come to this event tonight. We're in South Stadium Club at Tiger Stadium. It starts at 6. It's not open to the public, but it is open to business owners who are interested in learning more. Cocktail hour, or 6 to 6:30. The program will start at 6:30. All the coaches from LSU sports will be here tonight, and should be a really, really good event. It's beautiful up here. By the way, it just started raining, which is, we're sitting here in South Stadium Club, and I'm just overlooking Tiger Stadium, just watching this light rainfall over downtown Baton Rouge and Tiger Stadium. It's just this is one of the best views in Baton Rouge. If you've never been up to South Stadium Club, there's these giant floor to ceiling windows where you can look from the south to the north at Tiger Stadium and then downtown Baton Rouge. Just this unobstructed view. Anyway, it's beautiful up here. I love coming up here. All right, it's After Further Review. Thank you for hanging out with us here on this Hump Day edition of AFR, presented by Goodwood Men's Sexual Wellness, yourgoodwood.com, yourgoodwood.com. Again, Sean Fazande's with us in 10 minutes from right now, but I did want to discuss this. It's something that Kellen Moore discussed after practice on Tuesday. So the Saints practiced on Tuesday, and Kellen Moore met with reporters after, and he was asked point blank if they had made a decision yet on a week one starter, and not surprising, he was not answering that question just yet.
We're going through that process right now. Again, letting these guys continue to go through this journey. They've done some really, really good work, and so we'll put ourselves in position for this Denver game and then see how it goes from there.
Okay, so they've not yet named a starter, and then he was also asked to evaluate both quarterbacks after watching the film from preseason game number 2, the tie with Jacksonville this past weekend.
Tyler just starting it off. I think we had a really, really rough first drive. Just for the offense in general, not just talking about him. Didn't start off the way we wanted to. Kind of slow start. Thought he made a lot of really good decisions. He found completions. We had the missed op. With CO late in that drive, which would have been an awesome opportunity. There was some good process and good sequencing there from his standpoint. I thought Spence came in and obviously gave us a couple big plays. The DPI I think was a big play just to get ourselves going, move the field. Obviously the interception was unfortunate. That's on me just as much as anyone. Just calling that particular play down there, and the guy made a phenomenal play, and so his response was great. Just the way he responded, I thought that 2-minute drive for that whole offensive group was really, really good. Just the whole operation, guys being on the same page, understand their responsibilities, the urgency in which we played with. I thought there was a lot of good at the end.
So not disclosing or divulging a bunch there, which I don't think is really a great surprise. And he also didn't really give a timeline for naming a starter for week one. So, and I can understand if you're Kellen Moore at this point, you don't want to tip your hand unnecessarily too early. By contrast, look at the Colts, who have already named Daniel Jones their starter while they've got Anthony Richardson there. They used the 4th overall pick on Anthony Richardson a few years ago. He's been a bust. They've named Daniel Jones the starter. Well, what happens if they start 0-3 and Daniel Jones stinks? Well, you've unnecessarily named a starting quarterback for the season when that may not last. So I understand Kellen Moore not needing to name a starter. And quite honestly, while it would be great for us to talk about, I don't need him to name a starter. That's one of those things that internally they'll handle, and I'm sure when the time is right, they'll do what they need to do. And we'll all find out. And I think that'll probably evolve throughout the season where both guys actually play and play a bunch. But one of the things that I've said this entire offseason since Derek Carr's retirement back in April was that the Saints need to add a veteran quarterback. And the counterpoint to that has been, well, you've got Kellen Moore and Doug Nussmeier and Scott Tolzien. You've got these guys that have all been NFL quarterbacks that are on staff. And that's true. But there's also a difference, a very notable and real difference between a coach that was a former quarterback and your colleagues that are in that position group room that are on the roster with you. I mean, there's a reason Drew Brees, when he came to New Orleans, wanted Mark Brunell as the backup quarterback. There's a reason McCown was there and Chase Daniel. When Drew Brees would go to the sideline, and we all could see it, him sitting on the bench with the backup quarterback sitting next to him years ago, going through the flip charts of the stills, and then later, the Microsoft Surface scrolling on the tablet, looking at the plays because he wanted another set of eyes that he trusted. So even if you weren't bringing in a veteran to play, sometimes just having a veteran on the roster to benefit and help your younger quarterback could be a great aid. I think about Cleveland having the young quarterbacks with Shadur and Dylan Gabriel, but they've got Joe Flacco there, and Joe Flacco's going to start. He's already been named the starter, and great, but you've got a guy that's a Super Bowl winner, a Super Bowl MVP. He's 40 years old, who went from Pitt to Delaware to winning the Ravens job and becoming a Super Bowl champion. What an incredible wealth of knowledge and experience in how to be a pro for their young quarterbacks. What an incredible illustration of how to be a pro. I think that's as important as anything. So there's been this conversation lately about Jameis Winston popping up because Jackson Dart's played well in the preseason. He's a first-round pick, and he's probably going to start. And you got Jameis and you got Russell Wilson, and Russ hasn't played particularly well. But the Giants GM was asked about this, about Jameis, as a lot of this conversation has bubbled up. Brandon Brown is the Giants assistant GM who had some media availability, and he really shut down any rumors of a potential Giants trade with Jameis Winston.
Appreciate, people that are interested, but, Jameis is a New York Giant. With the way that he's gone about his business from day one, he's made it very intentional with the fact that he wants to be here and he wants to be here for the long haul. Teammates love him. His preparation process, whether it's, the off-field things that he does in terms of community relations, Bible study, things in the locker room, galvanizing the group together, not just the quarterback room, but the offense as a whole. He's been comic relief, but he's also been a really good example of how to be a pro and handling your business in terms of prehab, rehab, post-game care. So I'm happy he's here, and, he's going to continue to do those things. He hasn't wavered, and he hasn't been shaken by any distractions at all.
By the way, all the things I just said of why I would want a veteran quarterback in the room. Jameis probably ain't going to start, but you heard Brandon Brown say all the reasons that Jameis has been great. How to be a pro, how to handle your business, comic relief, Bible study, great example for teammates, training room. Yes, put accomplished veterans around your young players to show them how to be a pro. Listen, At the risk of being repetitive, I don't have great expectations for this Saints season. I think they're going to be a 5-win football team. I think the absolute ceiling, everything breaks right. I think they can win 7 games. I don't think they approach that. I think they're probably a 4 or 5-win football team. And that's okay. because I understand you've got to crawl before you walk before you run, and they're amid a rebuild with a rookie head coach. Either you'll have a first-year starting quarterback, be it Shuck or Rattler. You got a rookie left tackle. You're trying to find some youth and future starters on your defensive side. Like, I get it. You are in a rebuild. You are in a rebuild. So I'm looking at the season through a different lens. But part of building culture is having good veterans, like you have with DeMario Davis and Cam Jordan and had with Tyrann Mathieu. Why not have that in the quarterback room as well? It sounds like it won't be Jameis if the Giants are not interested in moving Jameis Winston. And maybe that ship has sailed. I mean, we talked about Teddy Bridgewater in the past as well. Joe Flacco is going to be the starter in Cleveland. But if you have the opportunity to add a veteran quarterback, even if you're not adding that veteran to be a starter, I wouldn't be opposed to it. In fact, I'd be very much in favor of it. All right, it's After Further Review. Thanks for being here with us, y'all. We're brought to you by South Point Volkswagen, southpointvw.com. New and certified pre-owned in Baton Rouge and online at southpointvw.com, southpointvw.com. At South Point Volkswagen, they are Louisiana's largest volume Volkswagen dealer. They sell more Volkswagens than anyone, and because they sell more Volkswagens than anyone, they also can give you the best deal, and they have the best selection of pre-owned vehicles, all different makes and models. Make that drive, Airline Highway, just north of Highland, or visit them online at southpointvw.com. When I walk out of Tiger Stadium tonight, I'm going to go right in that South Stadium Club lot, hop in my my Volkswagen Atlas Crossport, drive to the house. I'm telling you, it's comfort, it's got all the technology, and I have the peace of mind knowing I'm driving one of the safest vehicles on the road. It's South Point Volkswagen. What's your direction? Okay, y'all, it's After Further Review, Hump Day edition. We're glad you're aboard with us here. We will talk to Russ Mitchell in 30 minutes, making his triumphant return to AFR. We'll do 2 segments with Russ, previewing the Southeastern Conference. Next week, we'll be full into preview of Week 1 in the SEC. So let me knock out a quick break. We'll come back. We'll continue to chat about the Saints. Our buddy Sean Fazende from Fox 8 New Orleans will be here next. Don't you move. It's AFR.
After Further Review.
Action Industries is a proud partner of LSU Athletics. Of course, you can get them online. Action, INDINC.com. Action Industries Incorporated. Action, INDINC.com. It's interesting for being up here in South Stadium Club. You could see the downtown skyline. You could see up and down the river. You could see a lot of the plants up and down the river. A lot of the plants that Action Industries services. And as an industrial contractor for 4 decades, they do incredible work there for these plants. And I say it often, but there's 2 ways, that you have to get hired. You don't get hired to begin with if you don't have an exemplary safety record. At Action Industries, their safety record beats the industry standard. And then also, you got to do exceptional work because you rely on repeat business. Well, they've been around for more than 4 decades. They're great. It's Action Industries. Ask about the Advanced Turnaround Group, a subsidiary of Action Industries. Innovation in action.
After Further Review, presented by Goodwood Men's Sexual Wellness. Visit yourgoodwood.com.
We continue from South Stadium Club here in Tiger Stadium. Beautiful venue. Even though rain is falling in downtown Baton Rouge, it's pretty cool to see the rain falling from this high of a location. Saints back on the practice field. Sean Fazende, Fox 8, good enough to join us as he often does. Talk a little black and gold. Who dat? Sean, how are you, man?
I'm doing great. I'm actually leaving the Superdome as we speak here. You're doing all right.
What was the day like?
It was interesting. Everything got shifted indoors to the Superdome, which is fairly typical to get a practice in. Normally it's before the first preseason game inside the dome because there's a new turf, but this time a couple days after. I think we all saw that new turf was a little bit of a challenge. Was it Sunday? But anyway, they got back in here, did I guess about not quite 2 hours, maybe like an hour and 40, hour and 45. Did a couple scripted periods, they call it a call-it period, which basically is an unscripted session. So got some decent work in. I think this is going to be our final open practice that we're able to see, and they kind of shift into regular season mode from here on out.
Kellen Moore said that he's not going to name a starter yet at quarterback. I mean, every conversation, Sean, has to involve some conversation about the quarterback. Maybe do you have a reaction to that, or just from your experience, what you think this process might be like between now and the season opener against Arizona on September the 7th?
Look, I think the team has already – he's kind of hinted at it today. I mean, they've already started with some things in terms of looking ahead to Arizona. Every team is doing this right now because they're week one season opener, moving, kind of looking ahead to what they could potentially be doing. As for the actual competition, it's hard to get a read on it because it felt like heading into that game that the arrow had really pointed towards Tyler Shuck. He had really been turning towards him. And in fact, I was of the belief that, my opinion here, that had Tyler Shuck come out and really played well or outplayed Spencer in that game, he probably would have been named the guy. Obviously, we saw what happened. Rattler obviously finished well. You could say Rattler clearly outplayed Tyler Shuck in that game. So does that put it back to the drawing board, and they got a couple more days to evaluate this thing and one more preseason game? I don't know. I mean, certainly feels like there's a lot of data that they've collected already, and I guess they need a few more. So it is what it is at this point. And let me tell you, the last two press conferences Kellen Moore's had, I mean, he's been hit with probably close to 20 questions about it. Kept his composure. That hadn't gotten quite frustrated with us yet, but it just is what it is. The quarterback competition, you're the last quarterback competition still going on in the NFL. So we'll see which way it goes, but I guess we got to wait a couple more days.
With one more preseason game, Sean, aside from the quarterbacks, what are the position battles where you think there are still jobs up for roster spots up for grabs?
Yeah, the final running back's interesting. If they keep four, is it Clyde? Is it the draft pick Devin Neal or Cam Akers? That would be, maybe I shouldn't assume, but that's the assumption that Bayless Jones Jr. makes the team. But I think he's been, really good camp in preseason. So in my own roster projection, I would put him on. The linebacker room is interesting. How many do you keep? That's probably an underrated room. They played pretty well throughout camp and preseason. And then, it's not the competition that you talk about much, but I have no idea who's going to win this punter competition. I mean, they had 3 at one point. Now they're down to 2. It's been fairly inconsistent between Burnip and Kroger. So where, who ultimately becomes the punter could be up for grabs. And then also, there's also the chance that neither guy wins it. Similar to what the Saints did a couple of years ago with the kicker battle when they brought in Will Lutz late after everything was over. And then, how many linemen do you keep? That's certainly something. And then, look, the wide receiver room is interesting because I think it's pretty easy to see who has played the best. The problem is you've got basically 4 guys in Tipton, Cooks, Olave, and Shaheed who are, basically different versions of the same player. I mean, they're all 5'11". They can all run. And you need someone with size. Cedric Wilson's a guy right now that obviously has that size. But, I mean, you saw the interception, Matt. I mean, a bigger receiver, there's a collision there for that ball. And, maybe that's an incomplete pass, maybe that's a catch, but probably not an interception. So you feel the need for that as well. So a lot of positions where you look at and you say, okay, this last game could really sort of help someone or a few players and could really hurt a few players as well.
That's why adding Brandon Cooks didn't make a lot of sense to me. Not to say Brandon Cooks can't still play. It's just you've got 2 other versions of Brandon Cooks and Olave and Shaheed. go get.
And then honestly, Tipton has really come on over the last. He did the same thing last year, but Tipton as well. I mean, I underrated his speed because he can really run. He's a 4.3 guy. I didn't realize that. So even him, in addition to Shaheed and Chris Olave.
I'm not saying he can't. I just need to see it on real NFL Sundays.
No doubt. No doubt about it. No doubt.
Go back to Devin Neal for a second because I know he missed a couple weeks with the hamstring, was back out there. Anything you've noticed from him? Because, man, we were real high on him as maybe a steal in the draft, and it was a bummer to see him suffer that injury.
Yeah, I mean, look, he got the ball a couple times today. They were working on some Wildcat stuff that it was interesting to see. That's a tough one because, to me, it comes down to him or Clyde in that running back room. Now, I could be totally off base, but that's really what it sort of feels like. Clyde has clearly outplayed him, but man, do you really give up on a draft pick that got injured that quickly? And I just, or try to, cut the guy and hope to bring him back to the practice squad or whatever the case may be. So I think Devin Neal that's one of the more intriguing players because you don't want to cut a draft pick. It's been done before, but he has missed time, and other players have played well in his absence. Players that have connections to the state, obviously, in Clyde Edwards-Helaire. So I think he's a player that you talked about earlier, a player that would need a big game or a good game. I think that would certainly help him. Help his cause if he does well Saturday against the Broncos.
By the way, would you keep Kroger or Burnip?
Right now, I have Kroger.
Yeah, me too.
Burnip has been a little too inconsistent, really, since the start of camp. And honestly, I thought he'd be one of the ones that could make a run to win the battle. I guess he still could, but right now, I would go Kroger.
What about you mentioned how many linemen they keep? Usually, it's your 5 starters, and then you got an interior guy, and then a swing tackle. Is it 7, or do they keep more than that?
Well, you normally would dress 7. You probably would keep 8 or 9, depending on what those players would do in special teams. They've got some young depth that they're trying to develop. That really depends on A, can they contribute on special teams, and B, what's the puzzle look like in other areas or their injuries, for instance, or in the cornerback room with Alontae Taylor down. He probably won't go on IR to start the season. At least that's not what the hope is. But he may not be available to start the season. So you got to, pad your numbers there. You can take one off your, offensive line group. I think that's always, kind of the push and pull. That's why it's a very fluid situation with the roster. So I've seen them keep 8. It's usually a keep 8. They don't dress 8. But I've also seen them keep 9 at certain points, depending on if that player is someone that they like and want to develop.
You think Foskey gets cut?
Yes. I haven't seen it. And then this scheme shift was supposed to help him. He's just, he's nowhere near the ball. He's not stood out once. There hasn't been a single moment where it felt like he stood out. I know he had one small tackle on a tackle on a wide receiver type screenplay in the game, late in the game. But I just, for a second round pick, coaching staff that didn't draft him, and this is a new defensive coordinator, a new scheme. It certainly feels like he's on the outside looking in. And look, you just kept waiting and waiting. Like, I was high on Falsey when it came out of Notre Dame. It just has not clicked for him since he's been here.